Welcome to Left Africa.
Today is Tuesday, June 16th, 2026. And later today, 22 men are going to walk onto a beautifully manicured grass pitch in New Jersey.
Right, and MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, exactly. And on paper, it's just a World Cup group stage match, France versus Senegal, just your standard 90 minutes of football.
Supposedly standard, yeah.
Right, supposedly. But if you look closer, what you're actually watching is, well, it's the climax of a 300-year history. We're talking empire, resource extraction, and just a massive national identity crisis playing out in real time.
It really is. The layers to this are just, they're absolutely staggering.
They really are. So whether you are a diehard football fan who tracks every single transfer rumor, or if you're just insanely curious about global power dynamics, this deep dive is your shortcut.
Yeah, your shortcut to understanding how sports serve as a mirror for geopolitics.
Exactly. So our mission today is to crack open this massive stack of research and show you the hidden machinery behind this specific match.
Because when these two teams step out of the tunnel later today, they aren't just representing sporting federations. I mean, they are stepping into a historical reckoning.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because the sheer irony of this match taking place in America is it's too much to ignore.
Oh, it's incredibly cinematic.
Right. You have Senegal, a former French colony, playing against France, their former colonizer, and it's all happening on neutral ground in the United States, which is, a former colony that broke from its own European master to become a global superpower.
It's almost like the universe is setting the stage, right? Reminding everyone that eventually all empires fall.
Totally.
But to really understand the gravity of the tension we're going to see on the pitch today, we actually have to rewind the clock. We need to go back 24 years.
Yes. The ghost of 2002.
Exactly. A moment that literally shook the world and laid the emotional foundation for everything happening right now.
So we're talking about May 31st, 2002, Seoul, South Korea, the opening match of the 2002 FIFA World Cup.
Yeah, and the contrast between the two teams that day could not have been more extreme. I mean, France was an absolute juggernaut.
They were terrifying.
Truly. They were the reigning world champions, the reigning European champions, and they were undefeated in 22 matches. They walked onto the pitch with a squad stacked with legends. Zinedine Zidane, Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira.
Just this total aura of invincibility.
Right. And staring them down was Senegal, making their absolute debut at the World Cup. They were ranked 42nd in the world.
Wow.
Yeah. And to the casual observer, their squad was just a bunch of unknown guys playing for mid-table clubs in the French league or out in Saudi Arabia. Nobody gave them the chance.
But then what happens next basically shatters that entire hierarchy in 29 minutes.
It's amazing.
A Senegalese winger named Bouba Diop breaks down the left side right. He swings across into the box. And the French defense, these world-class decorated veterans, they just freeze.
Like they were waiting for a whistle that never came?
Yes. And a midfielder named Bouba Diop slides in, stabs the ball past the French goalkeeper, and sets the entire footballing world on fire.
The celebration is what really gets me.
Oh, I've watched the replay so many times. It never gets old. Diop sprints straight to the corner flag, yanks it right out of the ground, and takes a Senegal jersey from under his own shirt to drape it over the flagpole.
He literally claimed that little corner of South Korea for his nation.
Yeah.
The symbolism is just unbelievable.
It really is.
And it was a monumental psychological shift. I mean, France desperately pushed for the rest of the game, but Senegal held their ground to win 1-0.
Which triggered a catastrophic collapse for France.
Complete collapse. The reigning world champions went home after the group stage. They won 0 games. They scored 0 goals in the entire tournament.
It's like a scrappy garage startup, not just beating a massive tech monopoly to a patent, but completely bankrupting them in a single afternoon.
That is the perfect analogy. It captures the magnitude perfectly. And meanwhile, Senegal rode that momentum all the way to the quarterfinals, tying the best ever World Cup performance by an African nation at that time.
And Bouba Diop became a national saint.
He did. Tragically, he passed away from ALS in 2020 at the age of just 42. Senegal declared a period of national mourning. And today, his number 19 jersey actually hangs in the Musée des Civilisations Noires.
The Museum of Black Civilizations in Dakar.
Exactly.
There is a quote from Bouba Diop about that 2002 game that always gives me chills. He said, and I quote, "We were playing against the history of our own colonization."
And that quote is the perfect bridge to what we're going to see today in New Jersey. Because, 2002 is just a psychological victory.
Right.
The players taking the pitch today aren't just dealing with the ghosts of colonialism. They are living avatars of a very active, complex, and deeply intertwined modern relationship.
Well, let's look at those avatars. Starting with Sadio Mane, the captain of Senegal. He's 34 now. This is his third World Cup. And I mean, barring a miracle, it's his last.
Mane's journey is just the ultimate redemption arc. He was born in Bambali, which is a village in southern Senegal so remote that it didn't even have paved roads when he was growing up.
Wow. And he rises from that obscurity to become one of the greatest footballers Africa has ever produced.
Right. He wins the Champions League, the Africa Cup of Nations. He's the Ballon d'Or runner-up. But if you look beyond the silverware, he really embodies this foundational Senegalese philosophy called teranga.
Teranga usually translates to hospitality, right?
Yeah.
But it's deeper than just being welcoming, isn't it?
Much deeper. It's this profound cultural commitment to generosity and community uplift. And Mane lives this out in a very tangible way.
He didn't just go buy a bunch of sports cars with his European salary.
Exactly. He went back to Bambali and personally funded a hospital, a school, and a mosque. He installed infrastructure. He is the heart of homegrown Senegalese pride.
Which is what makes the heartbreak of the 2022 World Cup so agonizing.
Yeah, that was tough.
He went to Qatar carrying an injury, tried to push through, but the medical staff had to rule him out. If you're wondering how much pressure is on one guy, you just have to look at the defining image of Senegal's 2022 tournament.
It wasn't even on the pitch.
No, it was Mane sitting in the stands, wearing a suit instead of his kit, openly weeping as he watched his teammates get knocked out by England.
He knows his body is aging.
Yeah.
And he knows this rematch against France is really his final chance to write the ending his story deserves.
So then you pan the camera to the exact opposite side of the pitch. Wearing the captain's armband for France is Kylian Mbappe.
At 27, in the absolute prime of his career.
He's widely considered the most dangerous attacking player on the planet, and his background is completely different from Mane's.
Completely. Mbappe grew up in Bondy, which is a Parisian suburb heavily characterized by its large immigrant and diaspora communities.
His father is Cameroonian and his mother is Algerian, right?
Yeah, right. So he's a product of the French system.
Mm.
But his roots trace directly back to the African continent.
So if Mane is the heart of Senegal's homegrown pride, is Mbappe the ultimate, undeniable symbol of France's continued reliance on the very continent it used to rule?
That is the central contradiction of this match. The country that colonized Africa now depends heavily on African-descended talent to win its trophies.
That's fascinating.
And to really grasp how this dynamic functions, we have to look past the romance of the sport. We need to examine the systemic economic machinery working behind the scenes.
The pipeline.
Yes. There's a massive, highly efficient pipeline moving young athletes from the dusty pitches of Senegal straight to the floodlit stadiums of Europe.
I was looking at the transfer numbers earlier and my jaw just dropped. The research led me to this place called the Generation Foot Academy. How does this pipeline actually function on the ground?
So Generation Foot is an academy in Dakar. It was founded in 2000 by a French coach and a Senegalese businessman. And they struck a direct partnership with a French club called FC Metz.
Okay, so a direct link right away.
Exactly. The scouts go out into the rural villages and the poorer suburbs of Dakar, find the most promising teenagers, and bring them into the academy. They house them, feed them, and train them using European methodologies.
And then what happens to the best ones?
The absolute best prospects are funneled directly to FC Metz's reserve team in France. From there, if they succeed, Metz either signs them permanently or sells them off to massive European clubs like Liverpool or Bayern Munich for an absolute fortune.
And this is where those jaw-dropping numbers come in. Over its history, the Generation Foot Academy has received roughly 100,000 euros in development compensation.
Which sounds like a lot until you hear the next part.
Right. But the players they've produced and exported, guys like Sadio Mane, Ismail Assar, and Pape Matar Sarr, have generated over 411 million euros in European transfer profits.
It's wild.
100,000 euros goes back to Senegal. 411 million stays in Europe.
The disparity is just staggering. And the mechanism locking that financial imbalance in place is something called the CFA franc.
Wait, I've heard of the CFA franc, but I always assumed it was just like a standard regional currency. How does a currency actually force a football team to sell its best players to Europe?
It all comes down to how the currency is controlled. The CFA franc is a colonial-era currency that's still used by several African nations today. And its exchange rate is actually artificially pegged to the euro by the French Treasury.
So what does that look like in practice?
Think about it like trying to run a local business, where a foreign bank dictates that every dollar you make is automatically converted into pennies, but the equipment you need to buy on the global market still costs dollars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because of this artificial peg, any revenue a Senegalese football club earns domestically, like ticket sales or local sponsorships, is virtually worthless on the international market.
So they literally cannot build capital.
They can't. It makes it economically impossible for domestic African clubs to pay competitive wages and retain their own homegrown talent. They have zero leverage.
Man.
The system is designed so that their only viable means of survival is to sell their best raw talent to Europe as early as possible.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Wait, so the academy system is basically functioning exactly like an old colonial resource extraction model, just exporting human athletic talent instead of gold or phosphates.
The structural economics are remarkably similar. You extract the raw material at a deeply discounted price, refine it or develop it in the core economy, and capture virtually all the profit.
The European clubs take all the financial upside.
Exactly. Well, the Senegalese development system just subsists on the crumbs.
So what does this all mean for Senegal? Are they just accepting this reality? Because based on everything else we've read in the sources, they are fighting back.
Oh, they're absolutely fighting back. Senegal realized they couldn't dismantle the European financial machine overnight, so they decided to weaponize it instead.
I love this part.
They built what observers are calling a diaspora army. They know France is pouring millions of euros into training elite talent of Senegalese descent in their world-class European academies.
So let me guess, the Senegalese Federation simply recruits those players back to the ancestral homeland.
That is exactly what they do.
I see guys on the roster like Ismail Jacobs, Moussa Niakate, Abdou Diallo, and young phenoms like Ibrahim Mbe.
Yeah, these are players born in France.
Raised in the French system, trained with French resources, who actively chose to wear the green and white of Senegal instead of the French blue.
And this dynamic caused genuine panic within the French football establishment. Back in 2024, the president of the French Football Federation actually proposed tightening eligibility rules.
Really? Just to stop this?
Specifically to prevent African nations from recruiting French-trained players. Now, just to look at this impartially based on the sources, you can understand the FFF's position. They are investing heavy resources into developing these athletes and want to see a return on that investment on the pitch. But conversely, you can entirely understand the players' desire to represent their ancestral heritage and the African nations wanting to reclaim their diaspora to field the best possible teams.
So France wants to keep the talent their colonial history brought to their doorstep, but panics when that talent chooses their ancestral flag. It's just a national identity crisis playing out in real time.
It's a massive identity crisis. And what makes today's match so critical is that you cannot separate this footballing tension from the massive geopolitical shifts happening off the pitch at the exact same time.
Right, because the 2026 match is taking place against a political backdrop in West Africa that simply did not exist during the 2002 upset.
Exactly.
You're talking about the 2024 election in Senegal, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, and Ousmane Sonko. If you aren't familiar with this story, it is wild.
It really is.
Faye literally went from being a political prisoner to the president of Senegal in a matter of weeks.
The rise of Faye and his mentor, Sonko, signal a massive disruption to the status quo. Now, to impartially report on their political platform, as outlined in the research, they campaigned heavily on an agenda of pure, uncompromising sovereignty.
What does that mean for France?
Well, they're actively seeking to renegotiate decades-old mining and oil contracts with foreign multinationals, and that includes French companies.
And what about the currency?
They want to reform or entirely abandon that CFA franc currency we just discussed. Plus, they are revisiting defense agreements that currently allow French military bases to operate on Senegalese soil.
They're systematically challenging the deeply entrenched economic relationship with Paris.
Completely.
Which is a huge problem for France, right? Because if we look at the wider map of the Sahel region, France has been rapidly losing its foothold over the last few years.
The geopolitical map has completely fractured. In the years leading up to this election, France was effectively expelled from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger.
A series of coups forced them to withdraw troops and close military bases.
Exactly. And in many of those countries, French influence is being rapidly replaced by Russian military contractors and heavy Chinese infrastructure investment.
So Senegal is really the last anchor holding the entire French post-colonial architecture together in West Africa.
It is their last major stable ally. But rather than breaking ties completely like Mali or Niger did, the Faye-Sonko government is attempting a much harder, more complex path.
They're trying to renegotiate from the inside.
Right. They are staying at the table, but demanding a new seat. If Senegal decides to fully pull away, France's geopolitical leverage in the region essentially evaporates.
Which brings us all the way back to the manicured grass at MetLife Stadium today.
It all connects.
All of these threads, the extraction of raw talent, the fixed colonial currency, the closed military bases in the Sahel, the kids in the Paris suburbs choosing their grandfather's flag, it all funnels down into 90 minutes in New Jersey.
And that is the true Pan-African implication of this match.
Oh.
When the referee blows the whistle today, the game is not just for the Senegalese population. There are 90 million people across Francophone West Africa who will be watching this broadcast.
Wow. 90 million.
Yeah. Every former colony has a complex, often painful relationship with its former European master. And football is the one rare arena where that massive systemic power imbalance of the real world can be totally suspended for an hour and a half.
We know a football victory won't instantly change the exchange rate of the CFA franc. I mean, beating France isn't going to rewrite a mining contract or force a military base to close.
It won't change the legislation, no. But what it does do is act as a profound psychological signal.
It's hope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For every Senegalese person watching in Dakar, for every diaspora kid watching in a Parisian banlieue, it proves that the smaller nation can stand on equal ground and win. It sends an undeniable message. The master was beaten in 2002. He can be beaten again today.
So, as you tune in to watch Kylian Mbappe and Sadio Mane lead their teams out of the tunnel later today, consider what you are really seeing.
You're not just watching a game.
Right. You now have the context to look past the jerseys, the television sponsorships, and the standard sports commentary. You are equipped to see 300 years of history sprinting across the grass, hidden in plain sight.
And as we watch this incredible collision of past and present play out, I'd leave you with this one thought to mull over.
Okay.
If national team allegiances are increasingly becoming a matter of chosen cultural identity rather than the physical soil you were born on, are we approaching an era where a national team represents ideological borders rather than geographic ones?